Hello there, it's Juliana Michaels and welcome to my channel. If you've been in the Tim Holtz world for any length of time, you might know that Ranger retired a bunch of the distressed paint colors a while back. And if you're anything like me, you might have been a little bummed about it. Full set syndrome, anyone? Well, the good news is they're back. And to celebrate, I decided to do something a little outside my comfort zone and create an art journal page using the paints with my gel plate. Art journaling and paint are not my go-to, not yet anyway, but that's kind of the point. Sometimes it's good to give yourself permission to play, and that's exactly what I did. Now let's get into it. Okay, so we are going to do something a little different than normal. We are going to do an art journal page. And we are going to play with paint. And just going to preface this with, I am by no means an expert in gel plates or working with paint, but I've been having fun playing with it ever since I took my class with Seth Apter, and he shared kind of his techniques and the way that he likes to create with paint and gel plates and art journaling. And yeah, so I've just been playing a little bit myself in my new art journal, and I've made a few pages playing with some of the paints and different ephemera and papers and things that I had in my stash. So yeah, so this is one of the pages I made for playing with some of the new distress paints, and then kind of played around with this one. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of do this again if I can. You can't like completely make something exactly the same when you're doing gel printing, but the technique will be similar. So just gonna get started here. I'm working with the new distress paints, and they're not really new. They've just been returned to the world of distress. Ranger had retired some of the colors from the distress palette, but they have decided to bring them back. So I'm going to be playing with some of those returned paint colors. And then I'm working with just a gel plate here. And then I've got an art journal and a brayer and a little foam blending tool and a couple stencils. And then I also recommend having some kind of like baby wipes or something that you can clean off your stencils with pretty quickly so that the paint doesn't dry on there. So yeah, so I am going to just flip here through my journal and grab a couple blank pages and we'll get started. So first thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of pumice stone and scattered straw, and you can use any acrylic paint you have. You don't have to use distress paints to do gel printing, of course. Any acrylic paints will work. So I've just got a little bit of those colors on there, and I'm just going to use the brayer and just kind of roll that back and forth and get those colors mixed together a little bit. I said, I am by no means an expert when it comes to any of this, so yeah, not an expert. So next, I'm gonna take this polka dot stencil and I'm gonna position it over my gel plate, and then I'm gonna take a scrap printer paper, so just any printer paper will work, and just kind of rub over the stencil, kind of helping, making sure it stays in place. And then that's lifting off some of the paint that's in those open sections. So I want to get as much of that out of there as I can. I also found I kind of like doing it with a paper towel because that kind of gets down in there a little bit more, and you can kind of dab that way. But you do kind of have to hold this stencil a little bit, so just kind of keep that in mind if your stencil's not sticking. And then we're just gonna lift that off, and then I like to spray this with some water real quick so that it doesn't get too wet. And then I am going to take my page and lay it over the background here. So I'm not doing the whole thing, but part of it anyway. I'm just gonna kind of rub over that and lift off and see what we get. Ooh, cool. And then with what's left, I'm gonna take that and do it on this other side. Now this section doesn't have any of the stencil on it, so I'm gonna kind of stay off of that. Just rub off whatever's left on there. There we go. So if you wanna do that again, which I kind of like to have, I think I want a little bit more of that design here and there. So I'm just gonna add some more paint and work that out here. And kind of dry off my stencil because I had sprayed it with some water. Dry that off. Kind of clean it off a little bit. And then we'll put that stencil back down. And it doesn't really matter where you put it there. Put a paper over it. Lift off some of that, and I'm gonna dab off some more. There we go. And lift that off. Then now we have some more to play with here, and I definitely want to get some more of that on this side, so I'm just going to kind of lay this down on here and just press down and get what I get. There we go. And then another little bit with this one. So remember, you can rotate it and you'll get different sections of it there. There we go. A little bit more up here, and I'll put some more whatever's left down here at the bottom. There we go. Ooh, love. Okay, so that's cool. All right, and get that stencil cleaned off. That's probably the biggest thing for me is I'm gonna keep things clean. So I think maybe a tray of water might be nice to stick the stencils into. But then I'm gonna reuse that stencil, so I kind of have to clean it off again. So, and then, you know, you can clean off the brayer in between, or you can leave it, doesn't really matter. And same thing with the gel plate. You don't have to clean it off in between. You can kind of just keep going if you like. All right, now I'm trying to remember what I did. Okay, then what I did, I think I just did more pumice stone. Trying to remember what I did last time, so I'm just gonna do one little dab of the scattered straw. So that was pumice stone and scattered straw. Now I'm just gonna do a little more of that pumice stone, get these mixed up. And so if you want, sometimes I don't put enough paint on here, I've noticed. So get a little more paint on here. And if you want to add a little bit more color, different color, you just do that and then just mix them in until they're kind of blended, but they don't have to be perfect. Like, that's part of the fun with this, is getting those unique effects with how the colors mix or don't mix. So now I'm just going to start kind of playing around with laying this down and just picking up little bits of color here and there. So I'm not wiping the whole section, just little bits of it. Ooh, that's cool. And get another little bit down here. There we go. And I want to get some on this side. Oh yeah, that's good. And you can just kind of, by doing that, you can just kind of play around and get sections of it. And then if you need more, which I think I want a little bit more, like another plate of it here. Oh, there we go. I mind a little bit more through here. So let's do. Oh, there we go. Perfect. I like that. That's good. Maybe we could do a little more there. A little less white. There we go. Okay. All right, so next we're going to play with the shabby shutters and forest moss. I don't know if I mentioned I used scattered straw and pumice stone in the first layer there. Now we're going to do little forest moss and shabby shutters. And I didn't clean my plate off. I'm just gonna work with what I've got there. Get these blended in a little bit. And now we're gonna take this stencil and just position it over. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna just dab up the paint in between. So if you wanna take a piece of printer paper and, you know, make another print off of this, you can. I won't use these, so these off print things. So I mean, that's just me. I know a lot of people they like to make a lot of fodder, they call it, just extra pieces to have and use for things. I find I don't tend to use those things when I make them. They just end up sitting there and I don't do anything with them. So I've kind of gotten to where I don't see I just don't make it. I just don't. So, all right, do my stencil spritz there. And now I've got that pattern on here. And I'm just going to just kind of lightly rub into here and see what we get here. Ooh, that looks cool. Very cool. Definitely want to get kind of like, so I've got some in that corner. I want to put some in this corner. So let's gonna go back over here and grab up what's there. Ooh, that's good. Let's see if there's anything down here to grab up. There we go. And I'm gonna do that again. So I'm gonna get some more paint on here and repeat that process. I'm gonna wipe off the stencil. You don't want your stencil wet when you put it back down on the gel plate, so kind of dry that off here, but get the paint blended on. You might add a little more here. Put our stencil back on and go back in and lift off some of that extra paint. so we've got our plate here again, and now we're just gonna go back in and see what we get here. Get some down here. Ooh, it's darker this time. I might put a little of that darker up here too. Ooh, yeah, that's fine with me. That's good. That's good. All right. Darker up here. Ooh, yeah. Love. Okay, and then we still have some on here, so let's grab little section. That's nice. And then there. And go down on the side here, whatever's there. Take it. Oof, nice. Okay. So you can kind of keep going until you get, you know, get everything off the plate or you're happy with how this looks. So yeah, so that's all we're gonna do with that. So I'm gonna give this a little squirt and clean off my stencil before I carry on. So that's probably my biggest little bit of a struggle with this is like the flow. For me, it gets a little tough having to like clean or feel like I need to clean. Maybe I need to let go more with the cleaning of the stencils, but the paint will build up on them, and some of the stencils that I've got here, especially a lot of Tim stencils, are really kind of small detail stencils, and so you know, paint gets built up in there, you're gonna lose some of that detail, and you know, if you're gonna be using this with pastes or inks, you kind of lose some of that, so. Alrighty, next, last step I'm gonna do on here with the paints, at least, well, it's probably not the last step, but here we go. So I've got this polka dot stencil, and I'm gonna take some of the aged mahogany, just put a little bit of that down onto my glass mat here, and I've got a foam blending brush, and I'm just gonna dab that in there. And then we're gonna dab through the stencil. And I find that with this, using this particular sponge, I have to kind of give it a little twist. I think I wouldn't mind trying like a makeup sponge. I think that might give me a little bit more transferring. And then just gonna add little bits of stencil work here and there. Let's put a little bit down here. And get a little more paint. And just kind of filling in a little spots here and there. Get a little bit down here. Remember, you can rotate that stencil too. Like, it doesn't have to just be placed on here up and down. You can go different directions. Down in this corner maybe. are. Loving this. Okay. Oh yeah, need a little bit more here. Okay, perfect. So then from here, what I'll do is just embellish this with some different ephemera pieces or pattern paper and create the finished art journal page. So if you would like to see that next step, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, this is a little bit of a new journey for me, doing some art journaling. It's something I've been wanting to get into for a while, but I don't know, just haven't made the step until just recently. And then the re-release of the distress paints just kind of helped motivate me a little more even to continue this journey and to share it with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know your thoughts on continuing this journey and sharing it with you. Now, if you are interested in any of the supplies that I used in this class, you can find links to them in the description box below. So just click on those links and you can check them out. And when you use those links, you're supporting me at no cost to you. So I super appreciate that. And until next time, stay crafty, my friends.